Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great day today. For this week's video, we're going to test two competing theories on sustain. So we're going to block this strat, we're going to deck it, and we're going to float it, and we're going to see how each one of those configurations affects the guitar's sustain. So theory one says the guitar body doesn't really have anything to do with sustain or tone. It's about the electronics, it's about the pickups. And if anything, you might want to isolate, your bridge from the body, because as soon as the vibrations enter the body, it's lost energy. It just goes into the body, it vibrates, it doesn't give anything back. So you might want to isolate your energy so that the electronics can, do the job, create sustain. Now, theory two says the guitar body is essential to sustain. As the energy goes into the wood vibrates, and it kind of creates a positive feedback loop. So the vibrating body actually helps the strings sustain longer, right? So you give energy into the body gives some energy back and keeps those strings ringing, okay? So that's theory number two. So in today's video, we're going to find out which one of these competing theories is correct. Now, if you're new to guitar, I'll give you a brief explanation of the three different configurations we're going to do. The first one is floating. Now, lots of Strats come from the factory with floating bridges, and that just means the bridge is off the body, pivoting on these two pins. Okay, so that means you can bend up with the whammy bar or down, and the bridge doesn't contact the body at all, save for these two pins, which are inset in the body. So not a lot of body contact, and this would represent the theory that basically you want to isolate the vibrations from the body, let the hardware do the work, and the electronics do the work. Now, the second configuration is known as decked, and this is where the bridge is sucked flat against the guitar body with a bunch of springs. Okay, you use spring pressure on the back, and therefore, the energy of the springs should be transferred to the body and give you better sustain. And the final configuration is what is known as blocked. So we have a piece of wood that contacts the trem, and the springs aren't really doing anything. Okay, so the energy from the strings go into the block, and then from the block it gets transferred to a piece of wood and then into your body, okay? And again, that's just another way to get all that energy from your springs into your body so that the body starts vibrating and giving energy and sustain back to the strings. All right, today we're going to be doing three different sustain tests. We're going to do open strings, 6th string to 1st string. We're going to play on the 9th fret, sort of in the middle area of the guitar, 6th string to 1st string. And then we're going to do three different chords, one down low, a G chord, and then a mid bar chord and a high bar chord. Okay, so we're going to cover most of the areas of the neck, and we're going to do each one of these configurations and see which one sustains the longest. As per usual, we're going to be using our Blue Angel amp, mic'd up with the incredibly sensitive Earthworks SR25 so that we capture every bit of detail and every bit of sustain. So after we do our sustain test, I'll go into a little bit more detail of how to set your guitars up this way. So we'll do that after. So if you're interested, you can watch a little bit longer, but let's start our sustain test. All right, so here's the results at the end of test number one. the blocked configuration sustains longer than the decked one. So that's really interesting, and I think we can certainly confirm the theory that more vibrations into your guitar body equals more vibrations back into the string, which is a really interesting thing to discover. I think it's kind of intuitive. I think we all know that, but to actually see it in practice is pretty cool. Okay, let's check out the results for test number 2. Now the results were exactly the same as test number 1, only in different order. So we had 4 wins for blocked, 2 wins for decked, and no wins for floating. And finally, let's check out the results for our open chord test / bar chord test. And again, the blocked configuration sustained the longest with 1 win for the decked. So that was interesting. I think a lot of us who have played for many years kind of know that intuitively, but it was interesting to see it kind of play out in real time and on screen. So yeah, the block trem is the way to go if you never use your trem. Better than decked. Slap a block in there, remove some of your springs, and just let the trem rest on that block. That's going to get you the best sustain. Now that's not obviously the end goal for a lot of players. I like to use a floating setup for myself just because it's so expressive. So a blocked trem is not going to be for everybody. And of course, there's artificial ways to create more sustain via compression pedals, by overdrive pedals, by using a tube amp. All these things kind of compress your signal and sustain it a little bit longer. But obviously, when it comes from the source, it's best. Okay, we're going to switch gears now and show you guys how we set up the decked system and the blocked system. So we're going to switch camera angles. Let's check it out. All right, you guys, so here's the system we're going to use for decking the trem. We are going to add 5 of the same type of springs. Okay, so we're going to put that one on. And this is a common method for people who like to, have as much contact as possible. And then we'll remove the stock American Standard springs, which are a little bit different. They have a different spring rate. So we're just going to use 5 of the same. See if I can pop that up here. There we go. And we'll add a couple more. So there's our setup for our decked trem, and we'll see what this does to the sustain. All right, you guys, now let's take a look at a blocked system. So we've got a piece of wood that I've cut out to fit the trem cavity. I'm just going to push that down until it's flush with the body. Okay, and then what you can do from there is remove some of your springs. So we'll pop 2 of the 3 off, I think, and we should keep 1 spring just so that the ground goes from your hand into the strings, into the block, into the ground wire there. So we'll leave 1 of those just to preserve our ground, but really, you can loosen off the claw springs if you want. This spring should be doing nothing on the trem. You should be able to remove it and nothing will move because of the block. Okay, so there we go. Let's test that out and see how it sustains. So to recap, if you never use your trem system, block it, great sustain, great tone. If you use your trem system but don't really like the stress of a floating system with string breakages and everything going out of tune, or being able to go to drop D really quick, then decked is the way to go. And if you want a fully expressive trem system but with the risk of string breakages pulling everything out of tune and no alternate tunings on the fly, then floating is the way to go. The rest of my information will be on the screen right now. Feel free to check out that stuff. Other than that, we'll see you guys next week with a new video. Have a great week.